details, particularly regarding Tehran's nuclear program. Vice President J.D. Vance to lead the U.S. side.
We think these technical negotiations are going to start sometime this weekend. That's still the plan, but that could change because it's not an easy country, Iran, to get out of, and so we're trying to figure out exactly when that's going to happen.
The White House later said Vance would not, in fact, be leaving for Switzerland Thursday, citing difficult logistics. Iran's supreme leader has endorsed direct negotiations with the U.S. The tentative deal also includes a call for an end to the war in Lebanon, where Israel's been fighting the militant group Hezbollah, though those two are not parties to the agreement. Meanwhile, Karen Shamas reports.
Over the past 2.5 years, Israel has taken control of swaths of Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria that amount to its largest expansion of militarily occupied lands in decades. It's an area larger than many major cities, roughly 386 square miles or 1,000 square kilometers, and Israel has said it plans to stay indefinitely. Israel calls these areas buffer zones and says they are needed to prevent future attacks by militant groups. These areas are not new borders, which require an agreement between two countries, but many fear that these changes could become long-lasting. I'm Karen Shamas.
The remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur are battering southeastern states with heavy rain, sparking flash flood and tornado warnings along the Gulf Coast. And Haya Pajwani reports.
New data from the West Health Gallup Affordability Index shows that only half of U.S. adults could afford their health care and had access to quality care last year. Concerns about affording health care in the year ahead were also at a record high. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
This is AP News. The Obama Presidential Centers opened in Chicago.
It was an extraordinary gathering.
Hi, I'm Bruce, and
From Bruce Springsteen to Bono and The Edge.
you love.
A 2008 Obama campaign theme song. The ex-president appeared to wipe a tear as wife Michelle spoke.
You made the hardest job in the world look like a walk in this beautiful park.
And when he took the mic,
I hope this center will serve as an affirmation of just how special, how precious our democracy truly is.
moments later, another campaign theme from Stevie Wonder. Both Presidents Obama and Clinton sang along, smiling, as George W. Bush and Joe Biden sat nearby. I'm Sagar Meghani.
With more news at apnews.com, I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
KGUM-FM, Dedido, the talk of Guam. This is Wave 105.1 FM, a Glimpses media radio station.
As Americans, we celebrate all the things that make us different. So what is the thing that connects us? The thing that makes us Americans? It's simple. It's our shared belief that we are Americans. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That belief that we each can be who we are and live the life we dream, in harmony with one another, in our system written in the words of the Constitution. Know your Constitution. It's who you are. It's who we are.
Unity. It's an American thing. From AmericanThing.org.
In a world that commands us to sprint through life at breakneck speed, there is a profound power in choosing to slow down. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for June 19th.
While we celebrate World Sauntering Day as a fun excuse to ease up on our morning commute, it actually connects us to a radical 19th century French fashion statement. In the 1840s, wealthy urban wanderers known as flaneurs took to the crowded streets of Paris to protest the frantic pace of the Industrial Revolution. To prove they refused to be rushed by modern society, these eccentric gentlemen began walking pet turtles on leashes through the city's upscale shopping arcades. Because a tortoise moves at an agonizingly slow crawl, it forced the walker to completely downshift their pace, transforming a simple stroll into a theatrical act of mindfulness. Today, Challenge the frantic rush of your schedule, step outside without a destination, and let a turtle set your speed.
Okay, now imagine a whole city of people with turtles on a leash.
So, if you're walking down the street and all these turtles are coming at you, what do you call it?
I do not know the answer to that.
Probably not a stampede, though, huh?
Probably not a stampede. We are also celebrating Juneteenth and National Watch Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
Stay informed, stay connected. Wave 105, the talk of Guam.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome to it. Another bright side right here on Wave 105, and it's brought to you by Chili's Grill and Bar. Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. Micro Pack. Dad deserves the best. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day in Micro Pack. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J Ford. Get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com. Get pre-approved instantly. And GTA, we start with you. 671-922-1051 or 1052. We are online, thewave105.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam. It's Friday, Beaver Betness, and we always start our Fridays off in the 2 o'clock hour with the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center Hour. And so our friends today are Jim and JV. Hafaday.
Hafaday.
Thanks for hanging out with us here. And so today we're going to be talking about Men's Health Month, right? And so usually when people talk about men's health, the conversation immediately goes to things like prostate checks, physical fitness, and heart health. And while all of that is incredibly important, today we're turning our focus to the engine under the hood that often gets ignored, mental health. And so before we get into all of that, maybe you can introduce yourselves, a little bit of what you do with Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center and how you partner with them.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jimmy Tenorio, as Paulie said. I'm with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. I'm a technical assistance coordinator. Basically, I've been there for 2 years and just giving awareness to the community and then also presenting on 988.
Hi.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm JV Formoso. I'm a counselor with the adult counseling services over at Guam Behavioral. So provide counseling, therapy for the adult population of Guam.
You guys got anything planned for the weekend? What does the weekend look for either one of you? Hopefully not work.
No work for me.
No work. So Father's Day, meeting up with family, maybe a little barbecue at the house.
Yeah, I mean, we need all of that. That's all part of mental health, right? So let's go there. I don't know who wants to start, but you know what it means to really focus on mental health.
Yeah. So in regards to mental health, we'll start with the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Right? Guys are traditionally handed an unwritten playbook that says, like being strong is, being completely silent when things get tough. It's like holding it in, tough it out.
Yeah.
But we know that, hiding stress only goes so far. It doesn't make the stress go away, especially when things may start compounding and it gets tougher and tougher.
Right.
Right. So from like a clinical perspective, that stress can build up and it can start manifesting in, other kind of symptoms, whether that's like mental health related, like depression or irritable mood. It can even start coming out like physically, like increased headaches, fatigue, indigestion problems. So when these emotions are kept inside, it's like a pressure cooker that needs to release, needs to find a way to vent out.
Well, as a counselor, right? I mean, you probably have had these conversations, right, with men on how to cope, right? And so, again, we only hear, we just want to generalize. We don't want to put out anybody's private details, right, or conversations, right? And so, but what does that kind of conversation look like in your world of counseling?
Well, for men, especially if they're
Yeah.
maybe new to counseling, which is common for a lot of people, to come in and they let us know, like, oh, this is my first time doing it.
Yeah.
Part of it's just like opening the conversation where they can feel safe to talk about things that maybe they didn't feel comfortable or didn't feel like they were allowed to talk about before. So just giving them that space to kind of let it out for the first time, really.
Sure, yeah.
And get into things deeper and see, how things have been going, how they've been feeling about things, really
Right.
trying to get in touch with maybe that emotional side.
Well, I know even like for myself, right? I am a very emotional person, and honestly, when people are like, "Oh, that's probably from your mom," I'm like, "No, it's actually from my dad." So we wear our emotions on our sleeve, right? And so I'm not necessarily afraid of sharing my emotions or getting emotional. However, there were times, even as an adult, where people are like, "Oh," would almost it. I don't think they realize that they're teasing, but they're like, "Oh, you're crying again." I was like, "Why? Men can cry." And for a number of reasons: happiness, sadness, but then also sometimes you're just connected to somebody's story, and somebody's story just get you in your feels, right? And so I could totally see an individual saying, all my life I was told I'm not supposed to cry. I'm a man, and the saying goes, "Man up," right?
Yeah.
So and sometimes that even showing your emotion is manning up. But I don't know. You're the counselor, right? So does that all make sense? Is that kind of where we're at?
Yeah, I think trying to get to a point where we can express emotions in a healthy way, because sometimes it might come out in unhealthy ways.
Sure, yeah.
And we want to avoid the ways that are maybe harmful to ourselves or others, or we're
Right.
taking it out on others when it kind of
Right.
becomes like an indirect thing because we're not dealing with
Right.
with those emotions, with our mental health.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, everybody's different too, so everybody shares emotion different. So you don't have to cry to show emotion, right?
I don't know. Yeah, some people might just be more emotional than others. Some might cry more than others.
Sure.
Neither way is like more right or wrong.
Right.
How you express it.
Right.
As long as it's like not harming yourself or
Right.
others, what we want to look at. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Jim, if you can talk to us about the conversations, again, generalizing that you would have on the 988 calls, right? And how do you assist those that might be sharing some of those concerns?
Okay, so just get a wide range of like the calls we get. It's most of it's like relationship, family, and financial challenges. Sorry, can you say that again with the
just generalizing conversations, especially when we're in the realm of assisting those that are men, since
Yes.
we're focusing on
Okay.
Men's Health Month, and
Yes.
just them being afraid, an individual being afraid to even share, like it might even be very uncomfortable. I don't
Yeah.
even think just any individual calling 988
Yes.
can feel very uncomfortable and wouldn't know where to start.
Yes, and especially because they don't know the person on the other
Right.
side,
Yeah.
and but it does have its ups. Sometimes some people are scared to share what they're going through with close people, and you would want to get that out because that mental weight on your shoulders, right? Like once you say something that's been bothering you and it comes out, you get that relief, but with 988 we listen non-judgmentally, and we're there for them, and hopefully we can get them the support that they need. So just conversating with them, having them open up with whatever challenges they have, and then from there helping them, and just being that open ear sometimes can just
Right.
be all that they need.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes we're getting I don't want to say the word attack, but sometimes we feel like it's our own family members that could be causing some of that stress.
Yes, very true. And so that's one of the good things to have 988, because then some people aren't straightforward to like go to the person that's making them feel that way, so then they can tell somebody and feel like the person's listening to them and not judging them based on whatever challenges they go through. So
and then JV, at what level do you usually assist? Because it doesn't always have to be so drastic. It's just maybe even managing stress. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just managing stress, because that those list of reasons why people might call 988 or seek help. Sometimes those topics can be quite taboo for people to talk about. Like they feel like, I'm not supposed to talk about like finances, or I shouldn't bother other people, my friends and family, with my relationship stuff. So there's kind of no outlets. And sometimes they just need that ear, and it's a way to kind of relieve some of that stress. Like maybe they do already have like the tools. Like not everyone who goes through a lot of stress necessarily needs like therapy or counseling, but really kind of strengthening, making sure you're using like the good stress relievers, the good coping strategies, the problem solving that maybe people already have that have gotten them through to where they are now.
Because there are so many ways to manage stress: going to work out, playing golf, going to a movie, watching a movie, taking a break just from the regular day, like going for a walk. But as a counselor, can you share a little bit of some coping skills, or how do you talk through some of those stress levels?
Yeah, so I guess we try to meet the person where they're at, like you said earlier. Like everyone's different.
Yeah.
So we try to find what best suits them. There's no sometimes we say like there's no like silver bullet. There's no like magic thing that works on necessarily everyone.
Right.
So we want to find the thing that works best for them. Like if they like working out, then use that. We won't encourage someone who doesn't like it to try it, or find the things that are meaningful and important to them, and including the people.
Yeah.
So the activities, the people around you, or making sure you're not like isolating yourself. So using the things that are tailored to that have meaning to you. We try to find where that is and try to encourage that, and then other therapy things that are probably more to the individual.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, a lot of times too, when I look back at my parents, do I have trauma? Probably. But now as a parent, now as a father, as a man, I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I have made some mistakes as a parent, and I probably did cause some trauma for my children. And so, how do we talk to individuals, since it is Men's Health Month, about kind of just saying that sometimes life just happens and you shouldn't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is like being allowed to feel stressed or feel bad about what's going on. In counseling and therapy, we call it like being non-judgmental. Whether feeling like sometimes we feel bad for feeling a negative emotion, like I shouldn't feel sad, I shouldn't feel angry, I shouldn't feel scared. We're like, in therapy, we try to encourage like these emotions are a regular reaction to things. They're not, the emotions themselves aren't bad.
Right.
We're allowed to feel those things.
Okay.
It's okay to feel sad when something sad happens.
Right.
And learning how to kind of live with that, manage that, sometimes just sit with it, and understand that that's okay. It's the behavior part that maybe we want to focus on. We're taking care of ourselves, keeping ourselves healthy.
Is it wrong to ask you what are the flags? I don't know how that all works, but obviously you're paying attention. And so when you say you want to manage the stress so you're not hurting others and you're not hurting yourself. So what is it that you're looking for? Or I don't know if you're looking for it, but it's obviously something that is going to get your attention.
Yeah, I guess generally speaking, I guess we would want to look out for if there's any like changes to your normal day-to-day, to your routine. If something feels off, or sometimes other people will notice it. They might point out that like you look kind of off, or something going on, even though maybe we're trying to hide it. So if we're feeling like some kind of drop in functioning, as we call it, like whether that's like socially, like maybe we're not going out as much, we're not talking as much, we're struggling at like work or school or in our relationships. So noticing those changes, notice when sleep's off, that's oftentimes a big first like sign when it's like off for like quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to take the conversation anywhere that's outside of your expertise, right? But again, when we have these deep conversations, I just want to let our audience know that it does lead to some intense conversations like suicide. So, again, if that's something that's going to trigger you, by all means, you can tune in a little bit later. But I did want to just have the conversation because a lot of times I think 988 is such an amazing resource because that's sometimes the only lifeline that an individual can see, right, when they're thinking about taking their life.
Yes. So that's what 98 is built for, not just people who have thoughts of suicide or suicide ideation, but even just a mental health crisis. That could be anything from like anxiety, depression, loneliness, going through a breakup, a relationship breakup, also even loss of a family member or a friend. 988 is built to you can call, chat, or text 24/7, basically.
Yeah.
And just like I mentioned earlier, it's just being an open ear, being non-judgmental for that person.
Right. And so when we're having these conversations, right, especially over the phone and whatnot, and they can be pretty intense. And so how do you take care of yourselves too? I mean, because this is again, you have to look at your inward too, right, and get self-care for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So like you mentioned, self-care, basically just things you would like to do, basically hang out with friends, family, either it's barbecue, you guys mentioned, watching movies, golfing. I failed to mention that I am going to be golfing tomorrow. So just finding a hobby or even picking up something new that you had interest in. Just anything that can keep you occupied and that you have general interest in.
That helps both of you, I imagine, because again, these are very serious conversations that you have. You are assisting the community in such a great way, right? But sometimes we forget how much of that weight is put on us, and sometimes the days turn into years, and then it can also cause your own PTSD in your job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So, like I mentioned, with the type of calls we get, it's not always routine, but just helping that person find where their challenges, and then also helping to create a safety plan, and then their coping skills, like JV said, and then from there working to help with their challenges.
How where do you get support though?
Where do I get support? Well, I have a good family and friends. I have a good support system. Also, my coworkers. I failed to mention that I have 2 full-time jobs, but both jobs. Yes.
There you go. So you really have to manage stress.
Yes. So
2 full-time jobs.
Yeah. So, but I have a very good support system both at home and work. So. That definitely helps me. And then just getting the right amount of sleep too. And I do exercise like 3 to 4 times a week. I hit the gym to go late night running on the treadmill because I get off pretty late. So yeah, that's how I cope with the daily stresses of working 2 jobs. So.
And JV.
Yeah, a lot of similar things. I think getting exercise, I think that physical release can be really big. Holding on to like a lot of stress and tension, get your mind off of it. You're focused on whatever you're doing with exercise, and then relying on friends, family, and coworkers who know what you're going through and know how heavy the job can be sometimes, and they can relate. Yeah, just finding those ways to let it out.
Talk to me about pressure cooker. Yeah, what is that all about?
Yeah, I think, holding in all that stress and tension and, thinking we don't need to talk about it. We don't need to let it go. Like, I'll be fine, man up. Yeah. And then it feels like it can only go for so long. We can get through it, maybe a day, a week, or maybe even years.
Sure, yeah.
But at some point, like, I feel like there needs to be some kind of release of all that stress and tension. And, we'd rather not have it be like a big blow up that hurts ourselves or hurts our relationships or puts us at risk for anything.
How do we also, sometimes we don't necessarily need to see a counselor, or we don't necessarily need to call 988. However, you should, and it's available to you. But like for myself, what are some ways that I can just assist when somebody does say, you know what, I'm going to call Paulie and ask what are his thoughts? What can I do to make sure that I'm not making it worse?
I think a big part of it is just like being an active listener, listening to what they have to say. Often it's like thinking if it were the other way around, how would we want someone else to be there for us?
Yeah.
We don't always necessarily need them to like solve our problems or fix what's going on. Sometimes they just need to let it out and vent.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So it doesn't always have to require like professional services or crisis services.
Right.
Sometimes it's just, being a friend, being
Sure.
there for someone and letting them let it out and
Yeah.
supporting them being on their team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just being there and being an open ear, that can just be the best thing for them, basically. But yeah, just if you're okay with like a family member or a friend, yeah, that's who you can go to, as part of a coping skill, just to release that mental weight or the whatever it is that you're going through.
And it's okay even if I don't, because I don't know any of the answers. I'm also scared I'm going to say the wrong things. I can also just mention, that there's 988 for you, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for, and
Yeah.
we want to help everybody that is going through a mental health crisis, or even have suicide ideation. So yeah, like I mentioned, just anything between depression, anxiety, loss of a family or friend, or going through a breakup, even financial problems as well. So yeah, call, chat, or text 24/7.
Yeah. I think also, when you think about, because I'm grateful for my support at home. My wife and I, we talk about everything. We talk about, how was your day and whatnot, right? And so that has helped me. But I think about individuals that really don't have that support system at home, or maybe they're not even at home. They're out on the streets and whatnot, right? And so that's why I'm very grateful that we have government services that is there and is available. And so again, the conversation usually goes back to when we have these every hour at 5:00. On Friday. How does somebody get in touch with you? How does that all work? Where are you in the continuity of care?
For counseling specifically?
Yeah.
So I provide counseling as part of the adult counseling program at Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center.
Okay.
So if you're interested in counseling services, you can go over
to
the departments, schedule an intake, see if that's appropriate for you, and someone will meet with you, and then get you hooked up with the services. There's also other clinics, other services available. You can check your insurance. I think it's a part of the insurance that people kind of overlook, the mental health part.
Right.
So if you have insurance, it's listed there too.
Right.
988 can be a good
Yeah,
try it out, talk to someone,
yeah.
see how it feels, see if you would like that on a further consistent
Right.
basis.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, you're at the very beginning of somebody's support, right?
Yes, we can.
As soon as you call 988, you're right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so other services that we have is like MCRT, which is the mobile crisis response team.
Yes.
So like if we feel like we can't help de-escalate whatever that person's going through,
Right.
we can activate MCRT,
Right.
and then they can go out and kind of do a quick assessment out in the
Yeah.
field, and so like when we feel that the person might need more services, we
Right.
try to offer them to come into Guam Behavioral to do an assessment.
Right. And from the other individuals, I know Kevin's listening too, right? It's always a recurring statement is that Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center never turns you away, right? And so just want to make sure that that's put out there as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. It is 2:30 in the afternoon, so we'll take the break and then we'll continue our conversation with JV and Jim at the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, and we are discussing men's health because June is Men's Health Month. This is Wave 105.
Rain or shine, bright side, where the real talk line is the bright side for you and me, turning up the truth so we all can see. It's the bright side, bold and timely.
Wave 105, keeping Guam informed, inspired, and in the conversation. Glimpses Media.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy said these inspiring words.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
Kennedy's promise was fulfilled when Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins sailed to the moon in Apollo 11.
Okay, engine stop. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
Armstrong left an indelible mark on American history and a footprint on the moon, as we all watched live on television.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It is a moment in our 250-year history that no one will ever forget.
The road to Adelup is set. This time, we sit down with Democrat candidates Senator Joe San Agustin and former Senator Dwayne San Nicolas. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 8 on the Wave 105 YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
Have you heard? Subway just launched the all-new Subway Wraps. Your favorite footlong, now wrapped in a tender wheat tortilla that's perfect for any flavor craving. Go low carb, hit your protein goals, or just eat better. Subway Wraps make fueling your day easier than ever with bold flavors and curated ingredients. Sink your teeth into the cheesy garlic steak wrap, juicy steak, cheddar cheese sauce, crispy veggies, and roasted garlic aioli. All wrapped up. Subway Wraps. Light, delicious, and satisfying without weighing you down. Subway. Eat fresh, feel good.
Celebrate Father's Day with Power 98 and Wave 105 as we honor our first heroes. To enter, send a WhatsApp message or call in and share your funniest or most heartfelt dad story. Winners will be revealed from June 15th to June 19th, and you can win your dad a special bundle prize. Stay locked in to Power 98 and Wave 105. Brought to you by Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Grill House, AutoWorks, Jollibee, Proline, and Cream and Butter. All summer long, Chili's Party Platters make celebrating easy and delicious. Perfect for grad parties, family gatherings, or anytime you're feeding a crowd. Available for pickup or for delivery. Only at Chili's. Great value and memories happen here.
The road to Adelup is off and running. This time, we sit down with Republican candidate Speaker Frank Blass and Dr. Mary Okada. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 7th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Half a day. This is Luella Lucinio, host of Pinas de Guam. Together with the Filipino community of Guam and Wave 105.1, we proudly celebrate Philippine Independence Month with the theme Kalayaan, Kinabukasan, Kasaysayan, Freedom, Future, History. From Guam to the Philippines, we honor our shared history, celebrate our freedom, and build our future together. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at Guam!
Close your eyes and open your senses. Introducing the all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5. Thoughtfully redesigned with a refined interior, larger 15.6-inch touchscreen display, advanced connectivity, and Mazda's signature driving experience. Enjoy elevated comfort, intuitive technology, and craftsmanship designed around you. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 Sport is available from $29,995 or just $198 per paycheck. Get pre-approved instantly at triplejguam.com.
The road to Adelup is here, and this time we spoke with Democrat candidates Senator Toriz Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
Stay sharp, stay curious, stay connected. Wave 105, the talk of Guam. Glimpses Media.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome back. Once again, we are hanging out with our friends from Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, Jim and JV. And so we're talking about Men's Health Month. June is Men's Health Month. And so before the break, we were talking about ways unaddressed stress can show up. And so I wanted to ask, why is seeking help so critical? And anybody can take that one.
Yeah, so isolation is a huge risk factor for a mental health crisis. And so statistically speaking, men account for nearly 80% of suicide deaths nationally. And then locally, the suicide rate for men in 2023 was about 34.4 per 100,000. And with the most common age group being young adults aged 29 to 20, young adults aged 20 to 39.
That really is, that is an alarming rate, you know? And so, I mean, when you think about what suicide does to an entire family, you know, I mean, it can destroy a whole family. And sometimes, you know, when you have these conversations or you are just trying to help a family heal, sometimes when you're talking to them, because I've had my own conversations, they said they didn't even see it coming. Mm-hmm. And so that's just heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, we obviously, the government needs to do their part in trying to, you know, assist. So these numbers, I mean, just one life is too much, right?
Yes. And you know, that's why it's important, you know, for spouses, family, friends, you know, coworkers, you know, to actively practice empathy, you know, and it gives men the permission, you know, they feel that they need the help, you know, the lack of help that they receive. They can, you know, we want to make sure that men, you know, instead of feeling guilty of what they aren't doing, you know, we want to make sure that they get the help that's needed. That's
right.
why. Yeah.
I was also seeing some data too from a psychologist, and it's not necessarily Guam data, but nationwide, that even men take their lives pretty violently, you know, more than women. I mean, they're using firearms, you know, and I was, you know, I never really thought about that part, but, you know, the psychologists were saying that that's usually, you know, when you look at some of the numbers, you're seeing that. And then Pacific Islanders too, I just didn't realize how much suicide the data is showing for Pacific Islanders. You know, there's some of this, the idea of failing your family.
Yes. So, and you know, to just get back on that, it's just, you know, back then it's like, you know, we mentioned, you know, suck it up, you know, you're a man, kind of, you know, that mentality of growing up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, show no weakness, and
right.
you know, you got to keep doing what you need to do.
Right. No, I appreciate the fact that you pointed out empathy, right? Because a lot of times too, sometimes when we don't realize it, we are shaming our friend, our brother, our cousin, you know, because they let the family name down. And so you have those conversations, you have those deep conversations, but at the end of the day, you have a family that you can still look to support you. And so at no point is it worth taking your life. You know, I think about my own kids too, and I think about what would happen if I left them, you know? And so you think about the way that it just can compound not just an individual, but an entire family.
Yes, and in the community too as well.
Yeah. You know, being in the media too, I mean, I've taken some trainings on like just how to, you basically don't report it, right? I mean, when you that's how we have been trained. And sometimes it gets out, right? But as a journalist, you don't put the names. You just share, like, for instance, generalizing. There was obviously police at the scene, and so you're covering it. But when it is announced, when a doctor or an official does state that this was suicide, you have to give these families time to heal. And at that point, it's no longer a story worth telling, because you understand that this is something that a family needs to take care of internally. And so the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, how do they train to make sure that this is not sensationalized?
Well, I mean, we do offer trainings. There's Safe Talk, there's ASSIST. ASSIST stands for Applied Suicide Intervention Skills training. It's basically, just seeing the warning signs already of, suicide. That's like the first step that you can, the first skill that you can have is noticing it.
Right.
And then just, approaching that person. And then from there, that's, you can have that shoulder to shoulder talk. It's basically not an eye to eye where it feels like, it's very intense, or it feels like an interrogation. It's just being there for that person, being an open ear, kind of like a 988, but just more in person, and then we also have a mental health first aid is another one that, it's just, again, seeing the signs, and then from there, getting them the help that they need. So that's a bunch of training that we have in regards to, like, just seeing symptoms of suicide, or the signs of suicide.
Sure, yeah. Can you repeat that shoulder to shoulder
Yeah.
tactic?
Okay, so shoulder to shoulder is just basically, you're just there for that person. How it can be done is just like through, sports, like golf, in the cart driving to the next hole, fishing, you're side by side, doing other hobbies like with a friend, like fixing a vehicle, or even just strolling, in the vehicle too as well.
Right.
Just even, not accusing them, but more of, you just, like, a perfect example is like, hey, I noticed you've been spending more time at work and you seem a bit stressed, and then just asking a simple question, like, how's everything going with you, and then from there, just listen to them, and, just, you're not trying to solve the problem, but you're just being there for them, letting them, like we said, that mental weight of releasing whatever they're going through.
Yeah, because more times than not, the individual is not even going to say that they're thinking of taking their life, right? However, when you have these conversations and you have the shoulder to shoulder tactic, right? You don't. I think we have to normalize these conversations, but it doesn't just come out. But at what point are we saying, are you thinking about taking your life?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like JV mentioned earlier, just like signs like where, let's say even just at work, you notice like a coworker seems like they're not their usual self, like they seem tired or they don't seem very focused. Sometimes you just need a break. So, just catching those signs, like certain behaviors that we have,
right.
Just seeing them and then helping that person, just changing behavior could be just perfect example.
Sure, yeah. Selling off, or not even selling, giving away their personal items, things that they know, that they care deeply about, and then all of a sudden they're just, do you want it? Take it. Removing themselves from family interactions where they're usually sometimes the center of attention, mood swings, personality shifts, right? Mm-hmm. But then again, right, people don't just outright say, hey, I'm thinking about suicide. Not always, right?
No.
Yeah. And so I think just being kind and empathetic and just being there to listen can make the world a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, we want to create a space where they feel like they can share. They can talk about what's going on, because maybe it doesn't always feel like that. Like like we were saying earlier,
Right.
Like you shouldn't be talking about this, and sometimes it's that empathy, or sometimes it's doing it ourselves, and then maybe they feel more comfortable sharing like what's going on with them if we feel comfortable talking about what we're going through, how
Right.
we're feeling, and that kind of opens it up to the group.
Right.
That's kind of more of an extension with like the shoulder to shoulder thing, is like if one person in the group starts
Yeah.
kind of talking about it, then suddenly maybe the next guy feels like, oh, maybe I'll say something.
Yeah, it starts opening up, and then everyone, gets involved. Yeah.
Well, help me out. Walk me through it real quick, because obviously I don't want to be like, wait a minute, let's do this shoulder to shoulder tactic. I don't want to, I just want to be able to do it naturally. So if you can, I don't know, walk me through how I can do this naturally.
So it just can just be a natural conversation. What any daily life activity that you can be doing.
Yeah.
Let's just say I'm golfing with a friend.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like he's there 100%. He's there physically, but not
Right.
mentally. There. It's just he's probably wandering off, and you go, hey, it's your turn to like stuff like that, and you just
Yeah.
be like. Sometimes some people won't even want to talk if there's a lot of people around.
Sure.
Maybe just pulling them to the side where they can feel comfortable. It's, hey, man, notice something a little different. Are you okay? Would you like to talk about it?
Right.
And just be non-judgmental about
Sure,
it.
yeah.
And because we don't know what everyone's going through.
Right.
But I mean, just being there for them is
Right.
all that counts.
And maybe even just checking up on them too. Maybe they were supposed to go golfing with you, and then they just not answering their phone.
Mhm. Yes.
And then you're like, wait a minute, that's odd. You said you were down, and now you're ghosting me.
Yep.
And maybe make the drive over to the house and just check up on them. I think that makes a huge difference, because maybe they were starting to, be down on their self. And then you showing up at their house shows that, man, this person really, is thinking about me.
Yes. Yeah. Show them that they care for them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, a lot of times too, depression, sometimes we can snap out of it, but I know that that's also a clinical, people are diagnosed with depression, right? And so it's not, it is insensitive to be like, snap out of it, right? Yeah.
If it were that easy, then
Right.
I'd have a different career.
Right.
Right. So yeah, sometimes we can get ourselves out, but sometimes it's more kind of on that clinical level, where there's the body chemistry stuff that, that some people might need medication for. Like there's other things going on, or it's the stress, the life stress compounding.
Right.
That maybe they don't talk about, and it's building up, and it's just making every day a lot harder.
Sure.
And
but and people are people are allowed to not share, especially their own when it comes to their own health, right? And so people don't have a label on them like, look, I've been diagnosed with depression. Some people will share, some people won't. So I'm not saying that we should start diagnosing people, but again, it really just comes down to being empathetic, right? And being sensitive to people, and not necessarily, like you said, judging, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the judgment, that fear of judgment is kind of what creates that more isolation, or it stops people from wanting to share anything.
Right.
They feel like they're just going to get, judged for it, or looked down upon for having emotions.
Yeah. Do you provide training to workplaces for the, how managers can, assist? Because sometimes we'll think like, wow, this person is just, the work ethic is terrible. But sometimes it's not that. It is what they've been diagnosed with, and that's not who they are, right?
Yeah, I don't think we have any specific training to that, other than
not from a manager's level,
No.
but more like community level.
Yeah.
With the mental health first aid.
Yeah.
So kind of, if a person with autism, that talks like about training on how to help that person, like what to do and what not to do.
Right.
Yes. So that definitely I believe mental health first aid would be the one there.
Yeah, no, I think more managers should take that class or know more about mental health first aid, because sometimes it can lead to terminating an individual and not realizing, wait a minute, they are clinically diagnosed with depression, and now it made it even worse. Because I think also with the medication and with the right support system and receiving care from Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, people can live normal lives.
Yeah, connected to the theme of men's health, right? Mental health is just as important as like physical health.
Right.
We wouldn't judge anyone for like going to the hospital if they had a broken bone or if they were feeling sick, right? And sometimes we internalize that too, like, you know, you wouldn't think a second thought going to the doctor if you don't feel well.
Right.
But for some reason we're not like necessarily applying that to our mental health, or we're, you know, kind of as a community or as a society, kind of moving towards like normalizing that, like,
not stigmatizing it. Yes.
Right. No, I totally get it, and I think that's just on just a community level, not even a workplace level, but holistically, we need to get there as a community, right? That understanding that, you know, when it comes to a person receiving care for their mental health, then that's just as normal as somebody saying, I'm going to the clinic for a regular checkup, you know, to check my temperature. Yeah. And so we have to be, allow individuals to seek that assistance. Yeah. And that's just as normal as, hey, boss, I got an appointment tomorrow, so I'm just carving out this time to this time, and I'll be back after. Yeah. And again, as a counselor, can you just share generalizing after having these conversations with you, after having treatment with you, what have you noticed, whether right after or during or just the months of receiving treatment? Like, what have you noticed from the individual?
Well, I guess the goal, well, on an individual level, we try to set some treatment goals.
Yeah.
So we tailor that to the person. The treatment goal is up to them. Where do they want to be? How do they want to look after? We want to give them the right skills to be able to, you know, combat whether that's stress or mental health symptoms.
Right.
How to manage that. You know, the expectations isn't. We say like perfection's not the goal, right? We can't stop whether stress happens in your life, bad things happen to you, or, you know, depressive or anxious thoughts happen, or rather developing, you know, skills. You know, I often use like sports and coaching analogies in my sessions about like these are skills that you can work on so you can get good at it. You know, no one wants to feel depressed or anxious, but should it happen, feeling like you have the skills capable to like keep yourself safe, get yourself back to where you need to, you know. So at the end of it, it looks like it feels like they feel more confident in themselves, that not that like they're ignorant to bad things aren't going to happen to them, but rather they feel ready for whatever might. If they go through, you know, a tough period again, they're not going to like it, but they feel like they have the skills, the tools to be able to withstand it and get out on the other side and be okay.
And the alternative is just not seeking any help, which is not what we want.
Yeah, not seeking any help or relying on like unhealthy coping strategies.
Oh, what's that?
You know, some people might turn to, you know, we said like isolation before, like, oh, I just won't see anyone, and you kind of remove yourself from more help or assistance.
Yeah.
Or, you know, some people might turn to substances for, you know, kind of like the quick fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's called self-medicating.
Self-medicating, that's right, yeah.
Right. And so the same thing for you, Jim, right? I mean, you'll see it just on a conversation you have with 988, right? That it made a difference.
Yes. So sometimes we would, or not sometimes, but most times we'll ask them, you know, how'd you feel from when you first called to now? And, you know, there's usually improvement on how they feel, you know, and it's just actually because of listening to them and, you know, sometimes creating that safety plan and coping strategies, you know, helps them, you know, that they can get through it on their own too, but
Yeah.
they just needed that little guide, you know.
You know, I was having a conversation, and I won't share who it was just because it was years back, but they were saying, you know, some people would try to call in and think it's a joke, but I take it seriously every time they call. So I take it seriously, and then we realize they do have issues, and so we talk through them. And even when they started by just calling, thinking they're going to try to do this as like a joke or waste somebody's time because they're immature, they actually left the conversation feeling like they were helped. Have you seen that in your line of work?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. But you know, just making them, you know, feel better from when they first called, you know, that's the goal of 988.
Yeah.
So yeah, just having them feel better than they first, you know, before they called.
Right.
You know, because they're either contemplating or not.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting closer to the end, so I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity if there's anything else that we can share, and I might have missed something.
I think you covered most of
right?
it, yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, if there's anything else, you can give out more information, because obviously it's not just the 988. You can text as well, yeah?
Yes. So you can call, which is just 988. It's all you got to dial.
Right.
With the chat, you can go to 988lifeline.org, or you can. I have the QR code here. I have some postcards, and then I have a brochure and some stickers. Basically, you can scan the QR code, and it will lead you to 988lifeline.org. With the texting feature, it's just like the old school text message where you put the number, which is just 988, and then you just message, and then you'll get like a pop-up, and then it'll tell you there's a list of directions on what to do.
Can you just keep texting back and forth?
Yes, you can. And so there is this prompt message that will tell you to stop if you just text stop if you don't want to be or to communicate anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people, for whatever reason, well, I know that I do. If it's something that we can just have a conversation over text, I prefer text than phone call sometimes, right? But obviously, hearing a warm voice on the other side makes a big difference.
Yes, very big difference.
Yeah. And then JV, is there any information that you'd like to share, phone numbers or any information that would be helpful?
So the department, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, is also open 24/7 for crisis services. So if you feel like you really need to be seen, you can use the 988 resources. You can also come to the department or right across GMH. So regular business hours for other services, like my counseling services, are between 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. But the resources are always available, the crisis services. So if you go in 11 p.m., 2 a.m., right, someone will be there to meet with you to help and assist if there's a crisis going on, and that can roll over to the next business. They hook you up with the other services that you might need. So always available, always open.
Well, thanks, JV, for coming in. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. The both of you making time. Happy Father's Day to your fathers. And
thank you.
Are you dads?
No. Godfather only.
There you go. Godfathers are important. Yeah. So, well, thank you again for coming to the studio. I really appreciate this. Once again, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center hour every Friday at 2 p.m. And so today we were discussing men's health because, again, June is Men's Health Month. Don't go anywhere. We're going to continue more of The Bright Side all the way until 6 p.m. right here on Wave 105. Biba Betness. Biba Men's Health Month.
Biba.